I don't want to get too angry. I don't want to make this game into more than it was for the Buffalo Bills. But there's no easy way to say it. The Buffalo Bills, the importance of this loss cannot be understated. That's how important this game could be, not necessarily will be, but could be to their overall success this season. Let's call it how it is, as it stands right now. Let's start with the positives. Bills are still first place in the AFC East. They still have the tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs, and nothing that happened on Sunday has changed that. Still in first place. They're still 6-2. With their schedule, first 8 games of the season, they're still very happy about that. So, I don't mean to be a gloom and doom Bills fan coming off of their, their most disappointing loss of the year. I mean, considering there was only 2. But having said that, the importance of what this loss could mean cannot be understated, because in the same way, you are now 6-2 tied with the Chiefs. The Jets and Dolphins, both of whom have beat you already, are now a half game behind in the division. You are 0-2 in the division. And you have played 6 quarters of mediocre, subpar, substandard football. That's the situation. That's what you're facing as a Buffalo Bills fan and a Buffalo Bills team right now. Gonna go through position by position in terms of my thoughts on the game. Some of the things that, really irked me as a Bills fan this past week. Watching this game, watching the Bills lose a winnable game to what I think is a Jets team that is certainly better than they've been in past years, but is not the sort of team that should be beating the Buffalo Bills. They're not a team you lose to if you have Super Bowl aspirations. They're not a team you lose to if you want to host, if you want the road to the Super Bowl in the AFC to go through Buffalo. It's a game you can't lose. Can they get away with it? That remains to be seen. But you've just made the road that much harder for you. So, I'm going to go position by position. But first off, I want to say that one of my concerns and one of the things that got me angry last week with the Bills was that they didn't seem to really respect the game in the second half of that game against the Packers. Very lackluster sort of effort, very kind of mediocre sort of performance, uninspired sort of performance. Josh Allen throwing loose interceptions at the end of that game. A game that the Bills never really felt like they were going to lose. And they played that way in the second half of the game. They looked like a team that was sort of going through the motions, kind of just done with the game itself, and just sort of ready to get on with the next week. And what happened? That poor performance carries over to Sunday. The same type of football we saw at the end of that Packers game was the type of football we saw for the majority of this game against the Jets. And that's on Sean McDermott, the coaching staff, Ken Dorsey, Leslie Frazier. That's on the coaching staff. You can't take teams for granted, and especially in an AFC East game, and especially since sometimes the Jets have played close games, their defense is good, 5-3. That's a game where you as the Bills, as what, Super Bowl favorites, you're going to need to expect to get the Jets' best shot in that game. And when you look at the way the Jets celebrated that game, you could tell they gave it their best shot. That's their Super Bowl for them. That was a massive win for their season. Massive win for their season. And look, all credit to them. They played better than we did. They deserved to win. We did not deserve to win based on the way we played in that game. So, that's my initial thoughts on that and the game itself. Now, we'll pull up the stats and kind of go position by position here and sort of discuss what really went wrong for the Bills in this particular game. If you bear with me 1 second here, we're just going to pull up these stat figures. Let's start with the quarterback, Josh Allen. Credit to Josh Allen. He didn't play well. He knows he didn't play well. He knows that. When he said you can't win in this league with your quarterback playing like shit, he's 100% correct. 100% correct by Josh Allen. Josh did not play his best game, and he didn't play well enough to win. I think there were some other problems. We're gonna get to that. But, of course, starting with the quarterback, Josh needs to play better. 4 interceptions the past 2 weeks, loose with the football, turning the ball over. An unacceptable interception to Sauce Gardner to give the Jets the lead, and especially considering some of the struggles that the Jets had on offense up to that point. You can't do it. I love Josh Allen. I think he's the best quarterback in football. If you're looking for, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes hating on Josh today. But you look at those numbers there, 46.8 quarterback rating, 18 for 34, 205. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns. When you're an MVP candidate, when you're expected to lead your team to where the Bills want to go this season, that is not good enough. That's not a good enough performance. Again, credit to the Jets defense. They're a solid unit. They're a good unit. They made some plays. They got some pressure. Sacked Josh 5 times. Some of those he was holding on to the ball quite a bit. Not good enough. But again, I'll tell you what you like about Josh. He's not one to sugarcoat, pass the buck. He knows he didn't play well enough. He's 100% right that he didn't play well enough. And hopefully in the future, and this is another thing that you have a concern with Josh and just the way these games go. He's running the ball. He's taken a ton of hits running the ball. And we're going to go right to the running backs here because this is the first issue I have with this game. And I think part of it's coaching and part of it's just performance by the Bills' rushing attack and the offensive line. When Josh is running the ball 9 times and he's your leading rusher by far and he's taken some of the hits that he took yesterday and then you see him grabbing his elbow at the end of the game, that's a potential season killer right there. The Bills' run game for the past few quarters, once again, not acceptable. Not acceptable football. And I don't know how many times we need to do this as Bills fans. I don't know how many times we need to see it. The Bills are not going to be successful if they can't find some type of running game besides Josh Allen, especially in a close game like this. You need to give your quarterback some assistance. It can't be Josh Allen expected to be Superman Josh for 4 quarters against, a defense like this. You need to be able at some points to have some type of success running the ball. Now, are there going to be times where Josh Allen is going to need to be the hero? He's going to need to go and break multiple tackles and be a superstar? Yes, there's no doubt about that. There are times when he's going to need to do that. 100%. Not for 4 quarters. And we can't afford in the regular season for him to take a beating like he did this week. Hopefully, the elbow's fine. He shakes it off. He comes back strong. Because I'll tell you what, you need him now. You drop a game like this, and all of a sudden now, the next 3 games, one against the Lions on Thanksgiving, which was already a must-win, but especially next week's game at home, these become must-win type games that you cannot afford to lose. You're going up against a 7-1 Vikings team at home. You're a 7.5 point favorite, which that's another show, another pod. You're going to have to find a way to win that game. That's the position you've put yourself in when you drop a game like this that you should have won. You put yourself in a position where, you know what, 7-1 Vikings team, go beat them. Your quarterback's injured, too bad. Find a way to win. The running game, not good enough. Devin Singletary, James Cook. Hopefully we'll see more Naheem Hines in the future because these running backs are dreadful. I'm really, Singletary to me, I like what he does sometimes, but there's just not a lot of consistency there for me. And 3 yards a carry isn't going to do it. And you ask yourself why the Bills don't run more, it's because they can't do it. They cannot consistently run the football. They just cannot do it. Unless Josh Allen's rushing. Once again, Josh Allen, leading rusher, by far. You see the numbers. Look at the numbers. So, not good enough there. And yeah, credit goes to the offensive line too. Not good enough all day. Okay, the Jets have a good defensive line. Credit to them. Quentin Williams, good. Bryce Huff had a big play. Wonderful for them. John Franklin Myers, they have some guys up front. Offensive line needs to play better. And Deion Dawkins, credit to him. Took responsibility. Said it wasn't just on the quarterback. So you like what you see there. I like this team. I do. And again, I don't mean to be doom and gloom. It's just a simple fact of must be better. The buck needs to stop here. You got away with the bad performance last weekend against the Packers, against a bad team. But again, this is where when you're going and you expect to be a Super Bowl team, the margin of error is a lot lower now, A couple years ago, 6-2, we were, oh my God, this is the best season of our lives. When you're going for a Super Bowl, and especially when you're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, which we'll get to my views on that towards the end of the video. I've heard some interesting comments about people and, not caring about the Bills seeding and stuff. I'll get into that. But offensive line has to be better. 5 sacks, pressure all day, pressure in Josh's face all day. Needs to be better. But my main crux on the offensive line, wide receiving core. Wide receiving core. Let me tell you something about them. I thought this had the chance to be one of the best wide receiving cores in football. I really did. Stephon Diggs, first half, showed out wonderfully. Second half, Diggs got shut down. Who stepped up? Nobody. Unacceptable performance. Not by Diggs. Stephon Diggs was the lone bright spot in this receiving core. He always is. He's great. Wish he performed more in the second half, but I think that had a lot to do with the fact that we're not getting any production from our other receivers, or at least not consistently enough. And let me tell you something, Gabriel Davis, you're on notice, bub. Enough's enough with Gabriel Davis. How many fucking catches is this guy going to drop? Every fucking week now. He's starting to get me a little pissed off. Okay, maybe a lot pissed off. Had a big catch over the middle, he drops. The last play of the game, Josh heaves up a ball, contested catch with Sauce Gardner right through the wickets. Can this guy catch a football? It's like 1 in 5 for him. He has a great catch against Minka Fitzpatrick, so the talent's there. But the consistency is unacceptable. This guy drops one more pass this year, I'm going to fucking lose it. How many balls does this guy drop? Every week. The guy has talent. He can't catch a cold. rest of the receivers, non-factors. Dawson Knox, Isaiah McKenzie, nowhere to be found. You know what? Khalil Shakir time. Seriously. Gabe Davis, have him on my fantasy team. Love the guy. He gets me a lot of points when he goes off. When he has those 3 touchdown games. Love what he did against Kansas City. But there's too many of these type games. I need a little bit more consistency from this guy. Again, it's all about taking the next steps. You've been a great team regular season. You lost in the playoffs to Kansas City twice. This is the year. Where are the steps going to be taken? Are we going to see some improvement? Well, I'll tell you what. Gabriel Davis, I'm not seeing enough from him. I'm not seeing enough. Dawson Knox, I don't know if they're not using him. I don't know if he's out of the lineup. He's been a non-factor for most of the season. We already talked about the running back. So overall, the offense, it's just a disappointing performance. It's disappointing. This offense is supposed to be too good to have games like this. And I get it, in the league, the other guys get paid too. These things happen. But again, it's one of those things where the expectations are higher now. This is not kiddie land anymore. It's not, well, the Bills gave it a good effort and you bounce back and go next week. No, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And these are the types of games that matter. When you lose to the Jets, it matters. Because now they're 6-3. They have all the momentum. They're a half game out. Miami, who's beating you? Half game out. They're looking pretty good. Their offense is looking pretty good. Patriots, 5-4. Competitive as always. You're in a barn burner type division. Don't look now. If Josh is hurt for any number of games, your season's in jeopardy. Imagine if Josh is not 100%. He doesn't play next week, you lose. 6-3. I mean, you're staring in the face of the possibility of this season going completely off the rails for you. From going from Super Bowl favorite to possibly out of the playoffs. And I know it sounds ridiculous now. And look, hopefully Josh is fine. We win next week. Everything's good. This is just a footnote in history. But the point is, you need to make it a footnote in history. And some of these things need to change. The running backs need to start producing. If Singletary's not producing, you put in somebody who can. If James Cook isn't going to produce, you find somebody who can. Real simple, no excuses. Receiving core, if these guys can't open, you find a way to get OBJ. There is no for an answer, too much money, whatever. You find a way. You find a way. This is a Super Bowl team. Find a way to get better on offense. Because the last 6 quarters, not good enough. Overall, first half of the year, pretty good effort. Very good effort. Good offense. But this game, not good enough. Now we come to the defense. And you watched my preview, my short preview of this game. What did I say? The game was going to be determined by the front 7. Can the front 7 go and stop the run and force the Jets to be a passing team? We've seen Zach Wilson. I know a lot of Jets fans, they're high on him, they're low on him. I think the kid's a total bust. I really do. You look at his numbers. When he's not pressured, he's good. When he's under pressure, he's bad. That was the key to this game. I said it. Front 7. Can we make Zach Wilson beat us through the air? Well, what does the front 7 do? Let the Jets run for 174 yards. Final drive where they run like 7 straight run plays and march right down the field. Here's where I start to get angry. The offense, it's irritation. It's annoyed. There's people who are not playing to their potential who should be better. Or who need to start playing better. Gabe Davis, I still believe in him, but he needs to get going. Josh, of course, had a couple bad games. He just needs to bounce back. That I have faith that they'll be able to go and figure it out. What I don't have faith in is this fucking defense. You know why? Because I've seen this story. I've seen it 2 years ago. I saw it last year. I see it this year. 2 straight games, 200 yards rushing. Again, not good enough. When is Leslie Frazier, when is this guy going to be shown the door? How many of these games does the Bills defense, and they're always statistically so great, they always beat up on these cupcake teams, and then in games like this just completely don't show up. And what's even more embarrassing in this game is you know what the formula is. You know what the Jets want to do. Are they that stupid? All week, I've listened to Jets talk show. Have to run the ball. Can't put the ball in Zach's hands. He's going to turn it over. Did he watch the Patriots game? For Zach Wilson to beat you, he will turn it over. Well, what do? 174 yards rushing. No pressure on Zach the whole game. The one time we get pressure, he puts the ball on the ground. It's a fumble. Von Miller. The front seven. And I don't want to hear Matt Milano's hurt. Find a way. The whole league is hurt. The Bills have been fortunate with injuries to their front seven. Their secondary, another matter. But I'm not even mad at the secondary all that much. Although they didn't play a great game either. But the front seven, at some point, when you're playing a running team, you should be able to stop it. I get it, they play their nickel, analytics, they want to force teams to... You know what the Jets want to do. That's 2 games now. 2 in a row. Over 200 yards. Guess what the Vikings are going to do? What do you think? Think they're going to throw it 50 times? Maybe, if they can't run the ball. But I'll tell you what, you better figure it out because the rest of the league is going to take notice. And it's going to be the same thing as last year. How do you beat the Bills? How do you stop their high-flying offense? You do what the Jets did. Third quarter, run the ball. Bills got like 1 drive in the third quarter. Because they just time of possession, march down the field, keep Josh on the sideline. It's a copycat league. So somebody's got to start figuring this out. And this gets me annoyed because we've seen this story 150 times. How many times has this defense just gotten bullied? Too much. Too many times has this defense gotten bullied. On to the secondary. Secondary wasn't great. Wasn't great. Zach Wilson was 18 to 25. 70% completions. But again, a lot of those quick throws, play actions, bootlegs. Secondary didn't play great. Not terrible. I'm not going to crucify him. I will say we had no answer for Garrett Wilson. That is concerning because you're going to see a lot of him with the Jets. Hopefully the next game they find an answer for him because we were not able to do anything against Garrett Wilson. So hopefully we find an answer to that. But, again, like I said, the key to the game was the front seven. And Leslie Frazier, again, there's going to be games you lose. It's going to happen. The Miami game, blown coverage. It's just these close games. Too many times it seems like the Bills' defense, just for as good as they are, the Bills' offense didn't help. So maybe I'll give them a little bit of a pass because there were a couple bad turnovers. Like, there's nothing you could do. Josh Allen, he turns the ball over inside the 30. Jets going for a score. Really nothing you could do. That's a tough situation for the defense. But that last drive in particular was really bad. When a team goes and just runs it down your throat for 60 yards. You just can't let that happen. Because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. And you can't stop it. I would rather have Zach Wilson thrown a 60-yard touchdown. And that's sometimes, I think, the problem with the Bills' thinking sometimes. They're just content to let a team just run 60 yards, 70 yards. But especially in a close game when your offense isn't playing that well, that's when the defense should be more aggressive. that's when, you know what, we can't just go and hold them to 3. We've seen our offense is struggling. They're not in sync. The receivers are struggling. We can't just let the Jets keep the ball for the last 6 minutes of the game. So that was bad. Special teams, Sam Martin, good game for him. He had a couple nice punts. He's actually becoming a decent weapon for them. In the playoffs, if you need a big punt, at least he's showing he's able to do that. Tyler Bass, missed the 56-yarder before halftime. Could have tied the game. What are you going to say? 2 50-yard field goals. He made one, missed one. It's kind of what you expect. Could he have made the first one? Maybe. Should he have made it? Yeah. No wins, but, not going to kill him too much. Coaching staff completely outcoached. Completely and utterly outcoached by Robert Saleh. Not a good week for the coaching staff at all. Receivers, the Bills' offense looked totally out of sync. The defense couldn't stop the run, wasn't trying to stop the run. Not a good enough performance from the coaching staff at all. So now the question is, after this, what does this mean for the Bills moving forward? Bills need a big response. This is an important game coming up. You would think, this would have been the game. You win the Jets game. This is kind of your throwaway game. Against the Vikings, they're 7-1. You're 7-1. 1 o'clock game in Buffalo. See what happens. Maybe you have a letdown. Good team. Well, now this game's important. Now you're really looking at an important game that could really determine your season. And here's where I respond to some of the people who are talking about, well, home field doesn't matter. We don't really need home field. No big deal. No problem. Newsflash, folks. Your season ended in Kansas City the last 2 years. You really want to go back there again? The importance of home field. Bills Mafia is such a weapon. Buffalo is such a hard place to win. Even on a normal Sunday. But especially in the playoffs. Bills Mafia rocking. 70, 80,000 Bills fans. Screaming their heads off. With this defense. With this pass rush. Imagine a team like the Jets in the playoffs. Going to Buffalo. Zach Wilson, 3rd down. Thousands and thousands of fans cheering. That could get you to a Super Bowl. So these people who are home field doesn't matter, the one season, bullshit. I've seen 2 years where it's mattered. 2 years where the Chiefs have had that advantage in Arrowhead, Chiefs Nation or whatever the hell they call themselves. I've seen that for 2 years. So yeah, this loss was big. Doesn't mean the season's over. There's still plenty of football left. There's still plenty of time to right the ship and fix what's happened thus far. But we got to get going. It's time to get going. Coaching staff needs to do a lot better. They need to put together a lot better game plan. Defense needs to be able to stop the run. And they're in for a tough game because Minnesota's good. I know they've won a lot of close games, but you know who has trouble winning close games? The Buffalo Bills. They look really good blowing teams out. They don't look very good in close games. And we've been making a lot of mistakes. I will say, that's another thing. As well as Josh has played, there have been a lot of stupid turnovers that have cost us games. So this is a really important stretch of the season because I think you have a game against the Vikings, the Lions. I'm not sure who the third team is in the middle there. But once you get through that, you have a lot of the rest of the division games coming up. 2 against the Patriots, Dolphins, Jets again. And those are going to be must-win games for you too in this division because nobody's going anywhere. Miami's a good team. Their offense looks good. Say what you will about Tua Tagovailoa. Their offense looks good. And you might have gotten a blessing in disguise with him being hurt, or the Dolphins might be 7-1, 8-1 now. The Jets aren't going away. As bad as Zach Wilson could play, he could throw another 4 interceptions next week. With that defense, with that running game, they're not going away either. Patriots, you know who they are. They're not going away. Bill Belichick always seems to have them playing, even with a shoestring roster, no talent. They're always in the mix. So nobody in this division is really going away. So 6-2, great start to the year. Bit of a disappointment this week. The point is, I hope this is a wake-up call for the Bills because this is a chance for them to really keep their season from spiraling. Hopefully last week was the wake-up call that you can't continue to play this way and get away with it. That you need to start respecting the leagues, respecting your opponents, and you need to start playing better. I know they have the talent to do it. I believe in this team. We all believe in this team. Every Bills fan. I still think this is the best team in football. But I do think they're overrated. I think they're overrated. They're the best team in football. There have been at times I thought they were the best team by far, but I'm starting to think that they're a little overrated. They've beaten up on a lot of bad teams. A lot of bad teams. I think their stats have gotten very fat off of some of those wins. The AFC is wide open now. The Chiefs, the Titans, tell you what, man, Titans, second string quarterback can't throw, they're still competitive. Titans are going to be a factor. The Chiefs are going to be a factor. Ravens are winning 7-0 right now. They're a factor. Don't count out Cincinnati because they're blowing some teams out too. And that's not even your division, where we talked about all 4 teams are a factor. Yeah, Chargers, let's see what they could do. So it's not going to be easy. The AFC is now wide open. Any Bills supremacy that they had after that Chiefs game is over. So it's time to strap our chin straps, start playing some big boy football. And by big boy football, I mean it's time to start running the ball and it's time to stop the run. And if we do that, we have a chance to go as far as we expect this team to go. If we could do that, sky's the limit. If we're going to do like last year, it's going to be Josh Allen or bust. Can't run the ball, can't stop the run. We're just going to be a finesse team. Josh is going to have to throw it 70 times. We saw where that got us. Good regular season. We'll get a ton of wins. We'll be a 3 or 4 seed. We'll go to Kansas City. And when we go to Kansas City, they're going to be the favorite until otherwise. You haven't beaten them in the playoffs. So they're going to be, any game in Kansas City is going to be the favorite. You go to Miami. Look at Miami's home record. Past year and a half. I think they just had a streak of 8 straight wins snapped when the Vikings beat a backup quarterback. So they're a tough home field. You saw what MetLife was like with a good Jets team. Tennessee's a tough place to play. I mean, there's no easy sort of, it's right there for you. That's all I'm saying. So these people that are, I don't care about number 1 seed. Well, you know what I do? Because playing in Buffalo is going to be a lot tougher for these teams than playing in Baltimore, in Tennessee, in Kansas City. Can the Bills do it? Yeah. I think they could win anywhere, any given Sunday. They're that good. But this is where you need to handle your business to put yourself in a position to win a Super Bowl. So I don't want to keep ranting. I'm done. That's my recap for this week. It was a disappointing week. Some things I was angry about. Some positives of the game. Stephon Diggs first half. Josh Allen fought even though he didn't have his best game. Terrell Bernard, actually, I saw him. He was making some decent plays. So it was cool to see him out there. Hopefully he pans out. But yeah, not a lot of positives in a disappointing loss. So that's it. I'm done for tonight. That's my recap. Hope you enjoyed.